Hi everybody! So I've mentioned this a couple of times. 3D printing has really taken off, and it's easy to see why. It's so versatile, and the amount of material and money that you need in order to do something has dropped through the floor. And what it means in terms of 3D printers is that there's a ton of manufacturers out there competing against each other, and that's great for the consumer. And this company, Mingda, started in 2012, and what they do is consumer and industrial products. Their industrial printer, the MD1000, is a crazy machine. It's a meter by a meter by a meter, and they're producing prototypes of full-size products, things like wheels, car tires, seats, bucket seats, all kinds of stuff that they're making on this thing, which is astounding when you think about it. But of course they also work in the consumer, and this is their latest hot off the press product, the Mingda Magician Pro 2, and they've sent me a review copy. So we're going to get it out of the box and have a look and see what we've got when we look at this. Now, it's a pretty large printer. It's 400 by 400 by 400, and it weighs somewhere between 17 and 18 kilos, which makes sense because these printers move their bed, and of course you've got quite a lot of weight you're slinging around. So if you've got a lightweight printer, it's going to dance off the desk, so it needs a bit of chunkiness to keep the whole thing in place. So let's get this open, have a look, see what we've got. So here it is out of the box, and this is what it comes with: a tiny sample of PLA to get you going. There's the print head, which is fairly heavy duty and chunky, spool holder, spanner, some Allen keys, a few nuts, spare nozzle, spare tube, SD card and instruction manual. So it comes with what you need. Now, there are two main claim to fames for this thing. The first one is the ease of putting it together. It's pretty much just pop this on and pull these arms up, bolt them together. So it's supposed to be really stupidly easy to put together. And the other one is it's supposed to be ultra quiet. Now, the print speed at max is 200 millimeters per second, averaging out about 100 millimeters per second. And when you look at other machines, when you're thinking of the print speeds in the region of 250 to 600 millimeters per second, that's relatively slow. And it sounds like it's a disappointment, but to be honest, it's always a balance with these things, because this is being retailed at sort of the $450 region on their website, which means it's a budget level printer, and so there's going to be compromises. And if quietness is one of the things that you want, then you're going to pay for that in terms of speed, because in order to get it to print quickly, you need a lot of cooling, and of course cooling fans sound like jet engines taking off. And this one, when we look at the head, there aren't actually that many cooling fans, 4 in fact, to cool that down, and that's going to make it ultra quiet, but it does mean that it has to operate more slowly, and it's using Marlin as its firmware instead of Clipper, and that's probably okay for that kind of speed, but that's a limitation you have to accept if your priority is quietness. And you can understand that being a priority. Say for example, it was being run in a classroom, or the only place you can run it is right next to your desk, and you don't want to be noised out. So that is one of the biggest sort of thing that I think about it, is that noise claim set against the speed. In terms of the robustness and the quality of the build, well, we have to I would say be adaptable about that because of the price point. I mean, it seems reasonably solid as we look at it, and it is fairly tidily put together, but let's put it actually together and get a sense more of what the build quality is like. So it was indeed a piece of cake to put together. Now, a few things. The cable runs are actually surprisingly neat. Here they go, they're right there and right there, and very often you have them coiling around the back. So the cable runs are really neat. Fitting the cable was a bit odd because I had to peel it back, bolt this down, and then push it into position after that. Now, I did check all the cables, connectors and the pins to make sure they weren't broken and a pin wasn't bent, because it's quite easy to get a bent pin. Then you shove the cable in and you crush that pin down. So I gave it a quick check over the pins to make sure that the pins were nice and straight, and they were. And when I put these uprights on, the actual bit here was a little bit wobbly. Now, that makes a lot of sense because, you know, it's got to come up when you actually connect the thing, and it doesn't really matter that much, but I did tighten them down so that it was at the bottom here, so it was nice and firm. firm, so that's nice and firmly attached. And it's got a lot of the usual things you expect. So we've got a dual Z lead screw here, we've got dual gear extrusion in the extruder head, we've got the usual spring metal bed here that gets hot, and then it's got a few odd little bits and pieces. I've mentioned the cable runs. This bit here is actually a glass fibre filled plastic that thickens out the bed and gives it a bit more support. These here, which are the tension belts, are slack when they come and you have to tension them up. You tension them up to a C sharp. I'm kidding, eh? You just put a bit of tension until you've got a little snap to them. There's a tension rod right there and a tension screw, tension screw there to tension up those two belts. So you do need to tension them up. And I checked all the wheels, these wheels here, to make sure that they were nice and firm and true. And they, you know, they are, so what more is there to say about them? It's kind of what you'd expect, and it's a nicely designed machine. I particularly love the cable runs here and this extra bit of support on the bed with the glass fibre plastic there. That's kind of cool. And the support here, because of course it is going to wobble unless it has these extra arm supports. And the main thing to do now is plug it in and get it going and see what it sounds like and do the auto self-leveling. Okay, so plug it in and turn it on, and this will be the menu that you get, and it's pretty obvious where leveling is. It's there marked leveling, so just hit the level and it will auto level for you running through its procedure. And when it's done, it'll return to home position and store those settings, because what leveling actually does is takes a position in height called the Z position and then measures the bed position from the Z position, and so it creates an error. And when it comes to print, it uses that error to be able to print to the surface. So it doesn't actually level the bed, it measures how unleveled the bed is. And then we can restore the settings, and that creates a bed map. Now we can look at that map if we press in here. Then settings. And then Z offset. And that are the measurements that it took in the bed leveling process, and you can see the difference in the offset. Now if you want, you can manually change those by putting a piece of paper underneath the print head and the bed, go to a position that you want, slide the piece of paper to see if it's got a tiny bit of friction in it, and if it doesn't, you can press these buttons to raise and lower the Z offset to individually change that map until it's absolutely perfect. Now if we go back, we can press the back key, back key, back key, and that takes us to the front menu, because it's just like your phone. You go down a level, you go up a level to access everything you want. Now if you're going to load filament, then you want preheat. You press preheat and you'll see that there are some settings already in there for PLA, PETG and TPU, where those settings have been changed. Now you can see that you can change the setting, or rather apply the setting for preheat to both the nozzle and the bed here, or you can just do the bed, or you can just do the nozzle, or you can just do both at the same time. And if we go back again, then that will preheat it for us to be able to load and unload filament into the print head. If we press our menu again, we can see that we've got extrude, press extrude, and here we've got load and unload and load, and we can change that by 10 millimeters, 1 millimeter, 5 millimeters to speed that up, or we can do a manual. Again, we go back and we go up a level to where we want to be, and that's our main menu. So the menu is really easy to use. You can just step up and down it by pressing the menu icons. Now, of course, the main reason you've got this, the main thing you want to do with it is print, and so on the top level we have print. If we press the print screen, it'll show us where we can take prints from. We can either take it from a USB, or we can take it from an SD, and there in the side of the machine just under the print bed, if we select the SD card, because I'm using the SD card that was sent with me, and then we get the Angel G code, and then we get the confirm to print. The software is supplied, it comes on the SD card along with a sample print, and then what's supplied is Cura. Now I quite like Cura, although I know people have a preference sometimes for Prusa. My preference is Cura, not for any particular reason, so I can update my profile, or if it's new to me I can upload it from here, and I'm ready to rock and roll, because the slicer program is the program that turns the drawing into the machine code that the machine can understand in order to be able to print. So it's provided for you. Cura is a nice friendly one to be starting off with, although you can extend it to do some pretty awesome things. Now in terms of its energy usage, it's about 400 to 450 watts while it heats up, and it prints in the region of 150 to 200 watts while it's actually printing. So for a heated device, not that energy hungry actually. And overall it's a nice build. I mean, it has several points that would make it a serious contender in this size of printer, and perhaps the only con that I can think of is the speed. Now speed's never been an issue for me because you don't really stand over it. You set it going and then you leave it alone, but it can be a while before your printer's actually printed at that speed, although your contact time is not going to change. So speed has never been an issue, particularly for me. And the quietness and the ease of use, I would say, would make it a very attractive machine in that price range for people to be considering when they're thinking of a larger printer, because it is a large printer. I mean, 400 by 400 by 400 is a considerable space to be printing in, and of course we've been working on some larger prints, and so this would be a good one to do something like that on. Now the real test of this, of course, because all we've really done is taken it out of the box, have a look at it and get an idea of how to run it. The real test of it is to do some printing, but that's going to be over time, and as we print with this over the coming months we'll get a much better idea of how it actually works. But initially, out of the box, I think it has great promise. Anyway, I thought I would share all of that with you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.